Ava's heart pounded in her ears as she and Shida rounded another corner. The station's alarms continued to blare, but the immediate sense of danger seemed to have passed. They slowed to a stop, both panting heavily. "Well, soft one," Shida said, her fangs bared in what Ava was learning to recognize as a grin. "It seems the excitement is over for now. False alarm, perhaps." Before Ava could respond, a voice crackled over the station's communication system. "Attention all personnel. The emergency has been contained. Please return to your assigned duties. Sector 7 remains off-limits until further notice." Ava let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "I guess that's that," she said, feeling a mix of relief and, surprisingly, disappointment. "We should probably head back to the lab." Sheeta's tail swished in what might have been amusement. "Disappointed, Dr. Chen. I thought you humans were supposed to be risk-averse." "We're full of surprises," Ava replied with a small smile. "Come on, let's go. I have a feeling we're going to have our hands full dealing with the aftermath of this, whatever it was." As they made their way back to the medical bay, Ava couldn't help but reflect on the surreal turn her life had taken. Just a few weeks ago, she had been on Earth, preparing for what she thought would be a straightforward research position. Now here she was, racing through the corridors of an alien space station, her heart racing with a mix of fear and exhilaration. The medical bay was a flurry of activity when they arrived. Beings of all shapes and sizes were crowding the entrance, each with their own concerns and ailments. Dr. Zix, the jellyfish tree's xenobiologist who had become something of a mentor to Ava, undulated over to them as soon as they entered. "Ah, Dr. Chen, Shida. There you are," Zix chimed, their tentacles waving agitatedly. "We could use your help. It seems the emergency has caused quite a stir among the station's inhabitants." Ava nodded, already pulling on her medical gloves. "Of course. What do you need me to do?" "We have a variety of cases coming in," Zix explained. "Some physical injuries from the station's momentary gravity fluctuations, others, more, psychological in nature. Your expertise in Deathworld biology might be particularly useful for some of our more delicate patients." Ava raised an eyebrow at that. "Delicate patients? Me?" Zix's bell-shaped body pulsed in what Ava had come to recognize as their version of a chuckle. "Indeed, it seems your reputation as a resilient Deathworlder has spread. Some of our more anxious species are specifically requesting your care. They believe if anyone can handle their concerns, it's the human who can survive anything." Ava felt a mix of pride and trepidation at that. She was still getting used to the idea of Earth as a death world and the responsibilities that came with that label. "Right," she said, squaring her shoulders. "Where do we start?" The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Ava found herself treating a dizzying array of alien life forms, each with their own unique biology and set of concerns. There was a crystalline being whose facets had been cracked during the emergency, requiring a delicate application of molecular bonding agents. A group of gaseous entities needed help rebalancing their internal pressures after the station's atmospheric hiccup. Even a silicon-based life form came in, worried that the station's vibrations had disrupted its internal crystalline structure. But it was the Zolak patient that really tested Ava's skills. The gaseous being floated into the medical bay, its normally vibrant colors muted and swirling sluggishly within its specialized environment suit. "Greetings, Earth Doctor," the Zorlak's voice buzzed through a translator. "I'm experiencing distress. My thought patterns are disordered, and my vapor form feels heavy." Ava approached cautiously, her mind racing through what little she knew about Zorlak physiology. "I see. Can you tell me when these symptoms started?" "After the recent alert," the Zorlak replied. "The flashing lights and sounds, they resonated within me in an unexpected way." Ava nodded, beginning to understand. What she was seeing might be the Zorlak equivalent of anxiety or PTSD. But how do you treat mental health issues in a gaseous life form? "I'd like to run a few tests, if that's all right with you," Ava said, reaching for a specialized scanner designed for non-corporeal beings. The Zorlak's colors swirled in what Ava hoped was agreement. As she began the scan, she noticed Shida watching from across the room, her feline eyes narrowed in curiosity. The scanner beeped, and Ava studied the results with a frown. The Zorlak's molecular structure showed signs of stress, with unusual bonding patterns that weren't present in the baseline scans. "I think I understand what's happening," Ava said slowly. "The emergency seems to have affected your molecular bonds. It's almost like, well, if you were human, I'd say you were experiencing a form of anxiety." The Zorlak's colors pulsed rapidly. Anxiety, but that is a solid being ailment. How can vapor experience such a thing? Ava smiled gently. Mental health isn't just for solid beings. Your thought patterns and emotions are tied to your molecular structure. What you're experiencing is very real, and we're going to help you through it. Over the next hour, Ava worked with the Zorlak, using a combination of molecular stabilizers and what could only be described as gas-based meditation techniques. By the end of the session, the Zorlak's colors were brighter, its vapor swirling more freely within its containment suit. Thank you, Earth Doctor, the Zorlak buzzed as it prepared to leave. You have brought clarity to my vapors. As Ava watched the Zorlak float away, she felt a presence behind her. She turned to see Shida, an unreadable expression on her feline face. That was impressive, Shida said, her tail twitching. I didn't think Deathworlders would understand the complexities of non-corporeal mental health. Ava shrugged, feeling a mix of pride and exhaustion. To be honest, I was figuring it out as I went along. There's still so much to learn about all the species here. Shida's whiskers twitched in what might have been a smile. Perhaps you Deathworlders aren't as brutish as the stories say. Come, it's time for the midday nutrient intake. You can tell me more about this anxiety concept. As they made their way to the station's cafeteria, Ava found herself explaining the intricacies of human mental health to an increasingly fascinated Shida. It was moments like these, bridging the gap between vastly different species, that made all the challenges of her position worthwhile. Saxiferia was a riot of colors, smells, and sounds, with beings of all descriptions gathered to refuel. Ava approached the safe for human station with a mix of resignation and curiosity. Today's offering appeared to be a purple paste with flecks of something iridescent suspended within it. Ah, nutrient slurry again, Shida commented, her nose wrinkling in what Ava had learned was an expression of distaste. How do you humans survive on such bland sustenance? Ava sighed as she collected her tray. We manage. Though I'd give anything for a real Earth meal right about now, what I wouldn't do for a slice of pizza. Pizza, Shida's ears perked up with curiosity. Is that some sort of human delicacy? As Ava launched into an enthusiastic description of pizza, complete with gestures to illustrate the concept of slices, she noticed a small crowd of alien beings gathering around their table, listening with rapt attention. You mean you combine proteins, carbohydrates, and plant matter in a single dish? A voice chimed from the crowd. Ava recognized the speaker as Zix, who had apparently followed them to the cafeteria. Well, yes, Ava replied, suddenly self-conscious. It's quite common in human cuisine to mix different food groups. The ripple of what sounded like shock ran through the gathered aliens. Ava was reminded once again of how even the most mundane aspects of human life could seem exotic or even dangerous to other species. But wouldn't such a combination be hard on your digestive systems? Another voice asked. This one belonged to a rock-like being Ava had seen in the physics department. Ava found herself launching into an impromptu lecture on human digestion, fielding questions about everything from stomach acid to the appendix. It was surreal, discussing the intricacies of human biology over a meal of alien nutrient past, but Ava was surprised to find herself enjoying it. As the impromptu biology lesson wound down, Ava noticed the time. Oh, I need to get back to the medical bay. I have a follow-up appointment with a Vexillian patient. As she stood to leave, Shida fell into step beside her. This has been most enlightening, Dr. Chan. Perhaps next time, you could tell us more about human mating rituals. Ava nearly choked on her last bite of nutrient paste. Maybe we should save that for another time. Back in the medical bay, Ava's afternoon was filled with a series of challenging cases. The Vexillian patient, a plant-like being with delicate, translucent leaves, was experiencing difficulties with photosynthesis due to the station's artificial lighting. It's just not the same as starlight. The Vexillian sighed, its leaves drooping. I feel wilted. Ava nodded sympathetically. I understand. Let's see if we can adjust your quarters lighting to better mimic your home world spectrum. In the meantime, I'd like to try a nutrient supplement to boost your energy levels. As she prepared the supplement, carefully balancing minerals and photosynthetic catalysts, Ava couldn't help but marvel at the diversity of life she encountered daily. Each patient brought new challenges, forcing her to think creatively and adapt her medical knowledge in ways she never imagined back on Earth. The day wore on, bringing a steady stream of patients. There was a quantum fluctuation entity experiencing phase dissonance, a hive mind collective with synchronization issues, and even a silicon-based life form worried about molecular degradation in the station's oxygen-rich atmosphere. By the time her shift ended, Ava was mentally and physically exhausted. She slumped against the wall of the turbolift as it carried her towards the residential sector, her mind still buzzing with the day's events. As she approached her quarters, she was surprised to see Shida waiting outside her door, tail swishing impatiently. "Shida, is everything all right?" Ava asked, concerned. The feline alien's ears twitched. Yes, everything's fine. I was thinking about our conversation earlier about human food." Ava raised an eyebrow. Shida's whiskers quivered in what Ava had come to recognize as embarrassment. "I may have acquired some ingredients from the botanical research lab. I thought perhaps you might show me this cooking process you mentioned." Ava blinked in surprise, then felt a slow smile spread across her face. "Shida, are you saying you want me to teach you how to cook?" The alien's tail lashed. "Well, when you put it like that, it sounds ridiculous. Never mind, No, Ava said quickly. "I'd love to. Come on in." The next hour was a whirlwind of improvisation and cultural exchange. Ava's small kitchenette wasn't exactly equipped for gourmet cooking, but with some creativity and Shida's purloined ingredients, they managed to create something that, if you squinted, might pass for a stir-fry. As they sat down to eat their creation, Shida eyed the steaming dish warily. "And you're sure this combination won't cause digestive distress?" Ava laughed. "For you? I'm not entirely sure, but that's half the fun of trying new things, isn't it?" Shida's ears flattened. "You Deathworlders have a strange definition of fun," but she took a tentative bite anyway. The expression that crossed Shida's face was indescribable. Her eyes widened, her whiskers quivered, and a purr-like rumble emanated from her throat. "This is incredible," Shida managed between bites. "The interplay of flavors, the textures, is all human food like this?" Ava grinned. "Some of it. We have quite a variety back on Earth." As they ate, the conversation flowed freely. Shida shared stories of her home world, a place of dense jungles and fierce predators that made Ava's death world sound almost tame by comparison. In return, Ava found herself describing Earth's diverse ecosystems, from the depths of the oceans to the peaks of mountains. "You know," Shida said thoughtfully as they finished their meal, "I think I'm beginning to understand why humans are the way they are. Your world, it's not just dangerous, it's varied. You've had to adapt to so many different environments. It's no wonder you're so flexible." Ava nodded. "I suppose that's true. We've had to be adaptable to survive. But from what you've told me about your world, I'd say the same is true for you." Shida's tail swished. "Perhaps, but we evolved to fit our niche. You humans, you changed the niche to fit you. It's both terrifying and fascinating." There was a moment of comfortable silence as they both pondered this. Then Shida's ears perked up, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "So, about those human mating rituals." Ava groaned. "You're not going to let that go, are you?" Shida's whiskers twitched in amusement. "Come now, Dr. Shen. It's a matter of scientific curiosity. How do Deathworlders approach such delicate matters? Surely it must be a complex and dangerous process, given your physiology." Ava felt her face grow warm. "It's not, it's not that different from other species, I imagine. There's attraction, courtship, eventual physical intimacy." Shida leaned forward, clearly intrigued. "But what about the risk? Surely coming into such close contact with another Deathworlder is fraught with danger." Ava couldn't help but laugh. "Shida, we're not constantly trying to kill each other, you know. Physical intimacy is actually quite pleasant for humans." "Pleasant?" Shida's tail swished in disbelief. "You mean to tell me that you derive enjoyment from such a potentially hazardous activity?" "Well, yes," Ava said, feeling increasingly flustered. "It's a natural and enjoyable part of human relationships. We have various customs and rituals surrounding courtship and mating, but at its core, it's about connection and, well, pleasure." She'd sat back, her eyes wide, fascinating, and here we thought human mating must involve complex protective gear and safety protocols. To think you actually seek out such close contact for enjoyment. Ava buried her face in her hands, torn between embarrassment and amusement. "Can we please change the subject?" Shida chuckled, a rumbling sound deep in her throat. "Very well, Dr. Shen, but don't think this is the end of my inquiries. There's still so much to learn about you Deathworlders." As Sheeta left, Ava found herself reflecting on the strange turn her life had taken. Here she was, on a distant space station, discussing human mating habits with a failing alien over an improvised stir-fry. It was surreal, challenging, and utterly fascinating. She thought back to her first day on Station Horizon, how overwhelmed and out of place she had felt. Now she thought back to her first day on Station Horizon, how overwhelmed and out of place she had felt. Now, while still constantly challenged, she was beginning to find her footing. Every day brought new discoveries, not just about alien life, but about herself and what it meant to be human in this vast, diverse universe. The next morning, Ava woke to the gentle chime of her room's AI. "Good morning, Dr. Shen. It is 700 hours station time. You have a priority message from High Counselor." Ava sat up, instantly alert. A message from the station's chief administrator. That couldn't be good. "Play message," she said, her voice still rough with sleep. Silos's resonant voice filled the room. "Dr. Chen, your presence is required in Conference Room Alpha at 900 hours. We have a situation that requires your unique expertise. Confidentiality is paramount." The message ended, leaving Ava with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. What kind of situation could require her unique expertise, and why the emphasis on confidentiality? As she prepared for the day, her mind raced with possibilities. Had there been some kind of outbreak? A diplomatic incident with a newly arrived species? Or was it related to yesterday's mysterious emergency? She arrived at conference room Alpha 15 minutes early, only to find it already occupied. High Counselor Zeros was there, their iridescent scales shifting colors in a pattern Ava had learned to associate with agitation. Beside them stood Dr. Zix and, to Ava's surprise, Sheeta. "Ah, Dr. Chen," Exilos's voice rumbled. "Thank you for your promptness. Please be seated." As Ava took her place at the large circular table, she couldn't help but notice the tension in the room. "What's going on?" she asked, looking from one alien face to another. Silos's scales rippled. "We have a delicate situation. A diplomatic delegation from the Vorax Confederation is due to arrive within the next solar cycle. They are a notoriously difficult species to deal with, highly xenophobic and easily offended. Their cooperation is crucial for several ongoing research projects." Ava nodded slowly, still not sure where she fit into this. "Okay, but what does this have to do with me?" Dr. Zix's tentacles waved agitatedly. "The Vorax have a particular aversion to Deathworld species. They find the concept terrifying. Normally, we would simply ensure they don't encounter any Deathworlders during their stay, but they specifically requested to meet one," Sheeta finished, her tail swishing. "They've heard stories about humans and want to see for themselves if they're true." Ava blinked, taken aback. "They want to, what, study me?" "In a manner of speaking," Xylos confirmed. "They wish to observe a Deathworlder in a controlled setting. To, as they put it, assess the threat level." "Threat level?" Ava echoed, feeling a mix of indignation and disbelief. "I'm a doctor, not some kind of dangerous animal." "We know that," Zix chimed soothingly. "But the Vorax, they have very different perceptions. To them, the very idea of a species evolving on a high-gravity, high-radiation planet with extreme weather and dangerous fauna is almost incomprehensible. They need to see for themselves that you're not a threat." Ava took a deep breath, trying to process this information. "So what exactly do you need me to do?" "We need you to participate in a series of demonstrations," Xylos explained. "Nothing dangerous or demeaning," they added quickly, seeing Ava's expression. "Simply tasks that will showcase human abilities and temperament. Dr. Zix will oversee the medical aspects, while Sheeta will act as a cultural interpreter." Ava glanced at Sheeta, who gave her a reassuring nod. "And if I refuse?" Slos's scales darkened. "That is, of course, you're right, but I must impress upon you the importance of this delegation. The Vorax control access to several star systems crucial to our research. If we cannot assuage their fears about Deathworlders—" "I understand," Ava said, though she wasn't sure she did. "Not really. I'll do it." The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Ava found herself subjected to a battery of tests and examinations, all designed to showcase various aspects of human physiology. She lifted weights in high-gravity environments, underwent exposure to radiation levels that would be lethal to most species but merely uncomfortable for humans, and demonstrated the rapid healing of minor injuries. Through it all, Sheeta remained by her side, offering encouragement and the occasional sarcastic comment. "You know," the feline alien remarked as Ava emerged from yet another endurance test. "If I didn't know better, I'd think you were enjoying this." Ava wiped sweat from her brow, grinning despite her exhaustion. "Maybe a little. It's not often I get to show off like this." The day of the Vorax delegation's arrival came all too quickly. Ava stood in a specially prepared observation room, feeling like a specimen in a zoo. The Vorax, it turned out, were methane breathers, requiring a separate atmospheric chamber to survive in the station's oxygen-rich environment. As the delegation entered their side of the chamber, Ava got her first look at the mysterious Vorax. They were not what she expected. Small, almost childlike in stature, with large, luminous eyes and delicate, gossamer-like appendages. They looked, Ava thought, like something out of a fairy tale. But as soon as they caught sight of her, their reaction was anything but whimsical. The lead Vorax emitted a high-pitched keening sound that made Ava wince, while the others huddled together, their gossamer limbs intertwining in what she assumed was a defensive posture. "Greetings, honored delegates," Excelos's voice came through the translator. "This is Dr. Avachan, the human representative you requested to meet." The lead Vorax voice, when it came through the translator, was surprisingly deep and resonant for such a small being. This is the Deathworlder, but it looks so solid, dense. How can such a being exist without collapsing under its own? Ava blinked, caught off guard by the question. She looked to Shida, who nodded encouragingly. "Well, Alavagan," trying to keep her voice calm and friendly, "humans evolved on a planet with higher gravity than many species are used to. Our bodies are adapted to support our weight efficiently." The Vorax delegation conferred among themselves, their gossamer limbs waving in intricate patterns. Finally, the leader spoke again. "We have heard tales of human strength and endurance. Are they true? Can you really survive radiation that would kill other species?" Ava nodded. "To some extent, yes. Our cells have evolved efficient repair mechanisms to deal with radiation damage. It's not that we're immune, but we can tolerate higher levels than many species." This set off another round of excited chittering among the Vorax. Ava couldn't help but feel a bit like a sideshow attraction, but she reminded herself of the importance of this meeting. Over the next few hours, Ava found herself demonstrating various aspects of human physiology and capability. She lifted weights, showcased her hand-eye coordination with dexterity tests, and even allowed Dr. Zix to take a small tissue sample to show the Vorax the rapid healing process of human cells. Throughout it all, the Vorax watched with a mixture of fear and fascination. Their questions ranged from the scientific, "How do your bones not shatter under such loads?" to the bizarre, "Is it true that humans intentionally ingest neurotoxins for pleasure?" Ava did her best to answer each query patiently, often turning to Shida or Dr. Zix for help in translating complex biological concepts into terms the Vorax could understand. As the demonstration neared its end, the lead Vorax addressed Ava directly. "Deathwar, Dr. Chen, we have one final question. Given your species' obvious physical advantages, why do you choose to serve as a healer rather than a warrior?" The question caught Ava off guard. She paused, considering her words carefully. "It's sane. With great power comes great responsibility. Yes, humans are physically resilient, but that doesn't define who we are. Our strength, our adaptability, these are tools, not weapons. I chose to become a doctor because I want to use those tools to help others, to heal and to understand." There was a long moment of silence as the Vorax processed her words. Then, to Ava's surprise, the lead delegate's gossamer limbs began to glow softly. "Fascinating," it said, its tone somehow warmer than before. "Perhaps we have misjudged your kind, Dr. Chen. You have given us much to consider." As the Vorax delegation filed out of the chamber, Ava felt a wave of relief wash over her. She turned to find Shida and Dr. Zix beaming at her at least. She assumed the undulation of Zix's tentacles was their version of beaming. "Well done, Dr. Shen." Excelos's voice came from the room's speakers. "You've exceeded all expectations. The Vorax delegates have expressed a desire to open further dialogues about potential cooperation with Deathworld species." Ava smiled, feeling a mix of pride and exhaustion, happy to help. "Now, if you don't mind, I think I need about 12 hours of sleep." As she made her way back to her quarters, Shida fell into step beside her. "You know," the feline alien said, a hint of amusement in her voice for a soft, squishy Deathworlder, You're not half bad at diplomacy. Ava laughed. Thanks, I think. You know, after all this, I think I'm ready for that discussion about human mating rituals. It can't possibly be more awkward than today was. Sheeta's ears perked up, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. Really? Well then, Dr. Chen, let's go grab some of that coffee you're always talking about. I have a feeling this is going to be an enlightening conversation. As they walked towards the station's cafeteria, Ava couldn't help but smile to herself. When she'd first arrived on Station Horizon, she'd been so focused on the challenges, the differences between herself and the alien life forms surrounding her. But now, she was beginning to see the connections, the universal curiosities and desires that united all sentient beings. She was Ava Chen, human doctor on an alien station, and she was exactly where she was meant to be.